Well, all right, let's talk about the Chiefs' offensive coaching. And you might sit here and say, oh, well, there's, no notes, right? Completely optimistic. And, well, I probably will be more defending of the offensive play calling than maybe some Chiefs fans were during the middle of the season. If you Google Matt Nagy, Reddit, Chiefs, the top thing that comes up is people a month ago trying to get Matt Nagy fired, right? So, which, again, a month ago, it kind of made sense. They did not have a great offensive season despite having Mahomes. That being said, there's been some really good moments, especially in this postseason. It also still hasn't been perfect. So let's talk about the play calling, whether it's Matt Nagy or Andy Reid, the offensive coaching in general, and maybe the pros and cons that could happen in the Super Bowl. First, let's start off with the play you see on your screen. So what's going to happen here is it's a zone coverage concept, and you see the way this route can work, or this concept could work, I should say. You have multiple receivers running routes that are on the right side of the screen that are just going to go in kind of different depths. Rashee Rice's route is going to be underneath the zone and coverage, but eventually could get open all the way down the field. Watch how, when this play begins, Mahomes looks towards his right, and it's relatively well covered. On top of this, now pressure has come, so he can't get there, but the Rashee Rice underneath route is getting open. And to me, this is kind of what Matt Nagy and Andy Reid try to do, is they try to give several different kind of layers down the field and hopefully just let somebody get open. Rice is open. Obviously, the issue is Mahomes, is basically getting tackled. However, when Mahomes gets out of that and he's able to finally run over and hit Rice, I mean, you see when Rice starts turning upfield, look at how much space there is. This is kind of, I think, the benefit of what this play calling can do, is it can scheme up stuff like this. It really can, and, hopefully, oftentimes, quicker than what happened here. As you see, Rashee Rice is going to run down the field, and he's going to be able to, pick up a good chunk play. And listen, definitely an element of that was Mahomes getting a little bit extra time for the play to develop. And I do wonder, to some degree, is that part of why the schemes haven't looked as good this season? Is they take a minute to develop, and perhaps with the offensive tackles not being as good as they were last year. At least in my opinion, maybe some Chiefs fans would disagree. Perhaps that's been an issue. I don't know. Worth noting. But, I wanted to bring this up and say, listen, these plays can work. Granted, going over here, there are ways to stop these types of concepts. Something like this, where what's going to happen is it is a zone coverage concept. And again, you see how this can work, but this time it's a little bit easier, as no one's going from the one side of the field to the other side of the field. That's the benefit, right? Is that, okay, well, you can get to that spot quicker. The downside is that for a defense, you now know it's easier to pick up these players, right? Because typically when you're in zone coverage, you look at who's on your side of the field and who you're probably going to end up covering, which is why some routes that cross, over to the other side of the field against zone can be really effective. Watch how, when Mahomes runs his play action, starts to roll out towards the top of the screen. You see right here, I would say Buffalo doing a very good job at covering those two players. Mahomes has a tight end who is still a little bit open here, but this is a tough throw. You have to throw across your body. Mahomes could do it, but then you might not be gaining many yards either. Not to mention another Buffalo player is doing his job of making sure you run out and get in position to tackle Mahomes. I mean, this is kind of what you have to do, right? It's almost, you have to understand your assignment. When you're in zone, you have to know how to get through everything. And it does kind of feel like the Chiefs play calling is kind of predicated on guys screwing up. But if everyone just doesn't screw up and does what they're supposed to do, you can have these situations where, yes, maybe you can make a throw, but maybe you can't. Mahomes tries to see if he can scramble out, eventually realizes he can't, and kind of left-handed throws the ball just out of bounds. So again, if you're Buffalo, you'll certainly take that. But you also might remember, I'm purposely showing Buffalo tape because the Bills played a lot of zone coverage in that game, which is, Chiefs have been good against zone coverage this season, and also the 49ers play a lot of zone coverage. A play like this is absolutely where things can be a problem. It is defensively, and it can be a great thing for the Chiefs' offensive play calling, where the way this is supposed to work is, again, kind of a similar thing, right? You have three different players. You can see how Buffalo should cover this, right? There's two guys who are covering more shallow and one guy covering further deep. There's three routes in this area. Okay, this makes sense. There's, again, three Buffalo players who are supposed to cover towards the top of the screen. Three eligible receivers on that side of the field. There's actually technically four, but the halfback Isaiah Pacheco is going to very quickly block towards the offense's right. However, when this play begins, you see that there is a mix-up right here, and Mahomes throws the ball down the field, and look at how open Kelsey is. Now, I should mention, this is maybe not the team to hope you're going to get these kind of things to happen if you're the Chiefs going up against San Francisco. San Francisco very good at making sure they don't screw this up. But you know what? Every team still has some screw-ups like this. Maybe it's not going to be this bad where you're leaving Travis Kelce this open in the field, but things like this can still happen. Mahomes fires it towards Kelce. Kelce makes the, catch. Again, those guys are going to convert on that every single time if you leave them that open. That just can't happen if you're, the 49ers in this game. And again, that's something the 49ers have to be very well prepared for, is all of these types of concepts, which, again, we have seen teams successfully do this, like the Raiders, for example, on Christmas. That's kind of the one you look at where it's like, going over to a play like this is kind of what you want to have happen, where it's zone coverage, going to be a cover 2 zone here, and you see, several players. It's going to be Kelce and Justin Watson running deeper routes that are, going to kind of cut toward the middle a little bit, and then you have another. This is actually, I think it's a clever concept where you have a tight end who's on the offense's left. He's going to flash over. He's actually going to be the guy who's going to get the ball underneath. Usually you kind of do this with halfbacks, so using a tight end to do this, a little bit of a fun wrinkle. Watch how when Mahomes takes the snap, he is going to flip it over here to a tight end, and right here, Buffalo's just ready for it. Again, they're noticing what's going on. Oh, that player is coming through. Let me make sure I cover that player. So if you can just read these things, then you can be successful. Again, a lot easier said than done, but that is the aspect of it. As you see, they're able to make the tackle because that's another part in that. And so, these plays are beatable. Now, obviously, if you remember how that Buffalo game went, defense didn't exactly do a great job in that one, other than to kind of, creating fumbles at the goal line for the most part. Weren't doing great, weren't getting a lot of stops. But the other aspect of something like this, which probably my favorite thing about this Chiefs offensive coaching staff, is the faith they give in their players. And it does seem like at times they're like, you know what, zone coverage, hey Kelce, just go get open over the middle. Like, that just seems like a lot of the routes are just like, Kelce, get open over the middle. Mahomes, you guys have good chemistry, make it work. Which this play, it's a really clever thing that I think this is, I don't know if this is the coaching staff or if this is just Kelce working on his own. I would probably assume the latter, but it might be the coaching staff as well, where Kelce kind of fakes as though he's going over the middle and then sits down into the gap in coverage. Look at how when Mahomes takes the snap, he is going to eventually look over there. He fires over there, and there's a window. There is a window for sure. And while this might not be the sexiest play call you'll ever see, and, Shanahan's probably going to have a lot more, fun play calls to get a 15-yard conversion than this one is, because as you see, Mahomes does make the throw, and they're able to pick that up. At the end of the day, if you're getting the ball down the field, you're getting the ball down the field. And while it's always hard to say who exactly deserves the credit between the offensive play calling and just the scheme itself, it's the Super Bowl. Who cares who's getting the credit? You just want to win. And so, I think that the Chiefs will probably do a lot of stuff like this. So as for my final predictions chart thing, which is getting very long, it's been, again, a fun thing. It's specifically just meant to be fun. Don't take it too seriously. I'm going to give a point for the Matt Nagy, Andy Reid aspect in the Chiefs' favor here. I don't think it's going to be a massive deal one way or the other, but I do think that, I think there's some things they do well enough. I'm still willing to give the slight edge to them, and again, especially how they've done this postseason. It's weird. Where over the season, it has not been good. It just hasn't. But in the postseason, it's been, I would say, actively great, with the exception of maybe some nitpicks in the second half of that Baltimore game. Not some nitpicks. I didn't think that was great. I'll say that. The question you're always going to have is the same, reason why Eric Bieniemy ultimately left is like, it's hard to get the credit when things go well because people are just going to give credit to Kelce and Mahomes. At the same time, though, I think there's some nice things that they do, and I think there's some critiques as well that's worth mentioning, but that's kind of how I view all of this. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.